Okay. So to start off, can you share some insights into your experiences as an instructor at institutions like the Newark School of Fine Arts and Industrial Art?
Sure, it was the North School of Fine and Industrial Art. It's no longer open. It closed quite a while ago, but it was a place I went to art school there, following having gone to Arts High as an art major. And at the North School of Fine Industrial Art, it turned well. After I was graduated, they asked me to teach there, and so I taught painting to the first year students. Oil painting it was actually to the first year students. So that was my first art teaching experience. And so I was there for quite a while. And it was, and then later on, I also taught fashion illustration because that was actually what I had majored in as a student. But painting was always a love of mine. I really wanted to also be a fine artist as well as an illustrator. And so and it was just wonderful to be part of that faculty and to have had the experience of the foundation that they gave, because it was a phenomenal foundation. And to be part of that was great. We had 10 courses that were mandatory when we started, and those, when I first started there, I was 17 years old. So my impression was we were given those courses so that we would have an idea of which road we wanted to choose in our career. But as a established artist, and years later, I realized that those 10 courses, which varied, they varied to different painting in different media, art history, textile design, advertising perspective, architectural perspective. So there were 10 in total. And as I use everything that I learned at that time.
Mhm.
So that also impacted my teaching, because you can't, artistically, you really cannot separate anything from the other forms of art. They're all related some way.
How did teaching influence your own artistic development?
Oh, well, actually, teaching was combined with my total art experience, starting with art school. I had actually started art school at age 8 on Saturdays, then moving into um, high school. You know, after grammar school, I went on Saturdays to high school. I became an art student. I also then went into teaching. What it gave me was that whole experience gave me the opportunity for diversity. So, and because when I was in art school, the only thing that mattered was the art. That was our bridge. That was our common bond. So we didn't go through all the separatism that we have in this them and us society. That carried over into my teaching, because since I had already grown in my younger years, accustomed to different people or different peoples, had the exposure to other religions, etc. All of that impacted my teaching, because I have bridges to people. Uh, I have bridges, and I can now I'm teaching seniors, and in teaching seniors, sometimes you have senior citizens. You have to peel away some of life's experience. They're at the I'm teaching people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Sometimes to reach them, I have to peel away or find those various analogies, etc., and let them know that we don't have those differences that are often established in other communities outside of art. And so what happens is that when people mention various things in their culture, I have the experience of it, which is often unexpected. So because I have friends who are, and this is the other benefit, we're still friends. We're still looked each other up through social media. So because I have that varied experience of being with a lot of different people, I'm able to reach people in places that I'm sure I would not be able to if I didn't have that experience.
Mhm.
I can find a common ground. If they don't see one, I can establish it. And that's what I do. And so for example, a lot of my current students, or about half of them, are Jewish. And so when the various holidays come up for them, I'm familiar with them. I'm already familiar. And I can say, oh, yes, I sat under a sukkah. I did this, I did that, because I shared those experiences with in my history, in my background with my friends. And then they get the opportunity to experience my traditions as well. So the atmosphere becomes a welcoming atmosphere so that people can be themselves, they can be who they are. And my in my current situation, we're not even finished with our classes before they're asking, when could we sign up again? And so um, all of it melds together. I can't separate it from my teaching because my total life's experience with people, um, that's what helps me teach. You need analogies in teaching, especially when you're not dealing with the creme de la creme. The creme de la creme, that's that young art student who it's in his blood. You got to paint, I have to sculpt, I have to do whatever my art is. When you have that student, all you have to do is give an assignment for 3 weeks with a particular objective, and they're gonna blossom and do things you didn't expect. But when people are older, more fatigued, tired, they've gone through, they're trying to find their way, as a lot of seniors are, because they're widowed or they're retired. They're searching, all seniors are searching new identities. I'm not the CEO anymore. I'm not the high mufti muck. I'm not the grand poobah anymore. So who am I? I have to find my way. I help them in those journeys, because in order to get them to really produce and want to produce and get the joy out of art and painting, that self-expression, they have to feel free of the burdens of life's experience.
Mhm.
Did
Yeah,
I answer your question?
yeah, it
Good.
does
It's
lead.
roundabout, but it's not a short, simple answer for me.
Yeah, that leads into my next question. Are there any specific techniques or themes that you focus on to highlight these diverse expressions of tradition?
Yes, personally, I paint everybody.
Mhm.
I paint my experience. I paint, um, when I mean everybody, I will paint all ethnicities, nationalities. I just paint people. I paint life's experience. I just like to document the human experience. Um, I was at an exhibit in February. It was a Black History Month exhibit. And there was an artist there whose work I admire, and she's white. And she had done these images of Black people, did a beautiful job, beautiful. I love her work. So one of my students had come to the show and she said to me, is it all right for a white person to paint a Black person? And I told her, yes, I paint everyone. You just have to give them the same amount of dignity as you would do your own. That's it. So that's my viewpoint. I paint everyone because no one's duplicated. Everyone is an expression that tells as someone I've heard about my paintings, they tell a story. So it's a manner, a way of communicating. It's a way of teaching. It's a way of showing other people. I like to introduce people to other people. So
So
that's
how
what,
would you say your background in fashion illustration affects your approach to portraiture and figures in painting?
well, I know it still affects me and how I dress because everything, when I get dressed, everything is, it's still a design. You know, what I'm going to wear is always a design, and often well in advance. If I know I'm attending something in the future, then then I'm going to need this, that, and the other. So I have that. Um, how it carries over, I think the detail, I think what carries over from fashion illustration, because when you're involved in fashion, it's, you had to be involved also in not the fact that it's a collar, but what kind of collar? Is it a cowl neck? Is it Peter Pan collar? Are there cuffs? Are there buttons? How many buttons? Top stitching, pleats, soft pleats. So all of these things, you're involved in the detail. So what I've had to do where my painting is concerned, I have that eye for detail, but where I have to remember that in clothing my figures with a paintbrush, not to be too detailed so that it becomes a fashion statement.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm trying to avoid in my painting because I am so detailed. I'm always matching things. Things have to match, you know, so for me.
Okay. Um, how would you say your own personal journey has influenced the way you document all of these diverse experiences that you portray in your paintings?
I had I have an appreciation, I think, for the blessing of what I do. I started as a small child, as a lot of artists do, drawing on the walls before you go to paper, etc., being the best in this class and that and the other till you get to art school and they're all the best. And so I just had this expectation that art was just going to carry me through. And then life's experience took over as far as raising a family and having to be uh, in my obligation to my family. I took like a sabbatical. And then from, I wasn't doing art all the time. I was Boy Scouting, Cub Scouting, Girl Scouting, and all those things. Then I returned to teaching art and as art as a career. I returned with a level of appreciation that I don't think I had before. And because of my vast experience of interacting with people, being able to also interact with people, being very analytical. I hope I'm not getting away from answering your question. Um, all of those things have given me an appreciation for what I'm doing, what I do, and what I'm able to do, as far as mixing with people, studying people, and making them comfortable, and making them comfortable with me, with their work, with while I'm teaching them. And so those are the things that have really, I may be getting away from your question, but it's all entwined for me. For me,
Yeah.
everything is entwined.
So,
So it's just everything is incorporated. I can't I can't paint people without studying people.
mhm.
You know, I can't be a painter of people without getting to know people. They can't be out, it can't be objective. It has to be some personal level, even if I don't become involved with them, but there's something personal there.
Okay. So what has been the most rewarding aspect of teaching? And is there any advice you'd give to your students?
The most rewarding thing about teaching was validation. When I started teaching again in my current program, maybe a few years ago, and from Maplewood, I had taught under an umbrella they were involved in before, so they knew about me and they asked me to teach. We started out with a 8-week program, and it was one class a day. And then the students were so thrilled and so happy with it. It moved to 10 weeks, and then it moved to 12 weeks, and then it was twice a day. And it was the level of demand. And that was the most rewarding thing. And it let me know that I'm touching them. And I'm able to peel away to get to them so that they can express themselves. Because at this stage, I told you they're seniors, the subject matter is their choice. I don't give them assignments, and everyone can develop at their own pace and with their own choice of subject. And I meet them where they are. And I think that's what they appreciate. And I think that is what is most important, is they feel understood. And they feel understood and welcomed, and they're comfortable. And but also they're amazed at their own work. Everyone has developed, I think, beyond what they expected. And I had one thing which is complimentary, is that I was contacted by someone representing a group in the area, and they called me and they asked me to if I would come and talk to them about my teaching methods. And so I was like, oh wow, okay, sure, we could schedule that one day. But that's rewarding. That's very rewarding to know that your efforts are appreciated on any scale, but that's really good.
Mhm. How do you stay inspired and motivated to continue exploring more diversity through your art?
Well, I'm surrounded in diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I mean, literally surrounded in diversity. All of my students right now, all of my students are Caucasian. My friends from art school, who I am still friends with and connected to, vary, various, and then of course my own ethnicity or race, etc. I literally am friends with people in all races and general ethnicity. So the inspiration is always there. The more you do, the more involved you are, the more it feeds you, the more ideas you get. And so I remember the time when I was away, that sabbatical from away from art, because I was doing other things. Another artist said to me, she was doing only her commercial work, but she wanted to paint. She says, I feel like I just don't, I've lost the inspiration, I don't, the creativity. And I said, I'm feeling that too. I can't think of things to paint. I want to paint, but I can't think of what I want to paint. It's as long as you're in that art environment, art connected with other people, with other artists, showing, doing shows, going to the supermarket, just being a part of life. Because I use my camera to document. You know, it used to be a digital camera, and now it's the camera of my phone. But I'm out and I'm going click, 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 click all the time. And so that's a document. So it's not a matter of um, it's just a flood of things. So at any time, right now I have 4 paintings that are up here. You know, one started and 3 are up here. So now there was a time I couldn't think of what I was going to paint. And now I always have something to paint because the environment stimulates me. So I don't have to look for anything, or I see people or the interaction. I also like to paint things that are common to everyone so that people can relate to the work. I did a painting called Grandma's Lap. Grandma's Lap didn't sell yet, but when it was exhibited, all these people stood around it, talked, all these different people, different kinds of people, about their childhood experiences with their grandma. And that something like that is important to me because what that painting did, it brought nostalgia, but it also brought people together with a common interest. And people have more in common than they realize. I always say, we strengthen whatever we focus on. So if you focus on the differences, that's all you're going to see. But we're the human race, so we all have commonality.
So in the future, are there any new directions or themes you would want to take your work in?
Now, that's an excellent question. I always challenge myself. My subject of choice is always people, but I do landscapes, I do animals, I do still life. I do different things. And so I have in mind some larger pieces. One thing that I want to do now is like, generally I'm working in 30 by 30, 24 by 36. Even though you may have large exhibit spaces, it's like, how do you store this work? And, but there's one thing that I want to do that really requires a large canvas. And so there will probably be a couple of larger pieces. But, and also I find as I paint, your work changes, just like your dance changes, your music changes, the song you sing changes. The more you do something, the more changes there will be. So I've learned to go with the flow. If a painting, I did a painting recently, and I did it. I had something in mind. I had a photograph I had taken with these 3 figures, but I really didn't have a good plan for it. And I started working on it, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, you know, you should have planned better. Now that becomes an opportunity for a challenge, and challenge is where you always have growth. So I worked on it, worked with it until it developed. So other than going larger and trying to follow the natural direction of growth, I don't have a plan outside of that.
Okay, thank you. But that concludes all of my questions for today. So
Thank you.